You're in the right place at the right time, stretching from the distant spaceports of Batu, Tatooine, and Mantooine, all the way to the bright center of the galaxy at Imperial Center, slamming into your hollow projector like a supercharged nanoparticle of coaxium. This is the Star Wars Unfiltered podcast. I'm John, he's Jason, and we're here to bring you your needed dose of Star Wars film, TV, book, comic, gaming, and collecting news. The date is November 3rd, 2021. And we have some very fun topics today. We got some breaking news, which is a secret to be revealed momentarily. We're going to be talking about a rumored animated series coming our way on Disney Plus. There is some controversy surrounding an online petition regarding Bob Chapek, Disney CEO. We'll be going into that. And we're going to be doing a breakdown of the Book of Boba Fett trailer, as well as some bookstore memories regarding Star Wars books, magazines, such. And should be fun to go down that nostalgic path every so often. Jason, how has your last few days / week been?
Good. Survived Halloween, so that's nice. I actually got to do trick-or-treating.
Oh, nice. With Lexi?
Yes, and she was Hermione this year from Harry Potter.
Oh,
so that worked out really well.
Nice. It's funny that Harry Potter, younger kids are still like, even though there's no current movies, it's just so permeated our culture now. It's like Star Wars, where it's just like, they love those characters.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of timeless, kind of like Star Wars, and certainly you have all the millennials that grew up with it. They're now having kids and
very true,
getting their kids into it. And it's funny because it definitely isn't dated, because a lot of people forget or don't realize that the movies and the books take place in the 90s. I think in the 90s.
Yeah, that's right.
They're not contemporary with, I mean, I guess the first one maybe kind of is with when it was written, but as far as like the last movie is concerned, it was so much further out
right
when it took place.
I first became aware of Harry Potter, I think around 1997, just at Barnes and Noble, just seeing the book, and it was everywhere, and the book was really popular like that year. But I think it came out in 96 though, I think.
Something like that, yeah. And then it took a few years for the movie rights to get, everything get going on that. And it doesn't it doesn't rely on, and it doesn't have like cell phones and technology in it. So I think that's really the biggest thing. It's not like a disconnect with like, oh, why aren't they using cell phone? It's like, well,
and that might be a blessing.
Yeah, it is. So
it doesn't date it as much. And speaking of Harry Potter, I'm thinking about maybe revisiting, and finishing the movie series, because I never saw the last couple movies. But I'm thinking about revisiting it again, because I think this month is the 20th anniversary of Sorcerer's Stone, right?
Yes, something like that.
I always want to say Philosopher's Stone, but that's the UK title.
Well, that's what it should be no matter what. I don't,
But you can't mention magic or nunchucks.
Well, no. It's not that. It's that the actual thing is a Philosopher's Stone. Like it's a thing in alchemy.
Oh, you're right.
They changed it to sorcerers because, Americans are dumb. They thought that Americans, they thought that Americans wouldn't get it. It would be more accessible to our pea brains if it was just sorcerers. It's the same thing with like Nintendo games getting dumbed down for Western audiences and stuff, as far as difficulty levels and stuff. So
right. Okay, so going back to what you were saying, you had a good Halloween trick or treating.
Yes, lots of extra candy I got to try and get rid of now because I don't want to eat it.
Yeah, I got the same way. I bought candy for myself, and then I ended up with too much, and I still have overflow, and I'm like, I don't need this candy now. Halloween is over.
So that was your Halloween.
That was my Halloween. I rested a lot on Halloween. It was a very low-key Halloween because obviously it was on a Sunday this year. So in years past, I would still go out and meet up with friends and maybe have some beers or something, or go to a costume party. But being on a Sunday, there was nothing. And so I went out Saturday night, went up to Ojai and did the drinks and dinner kind of thing. And that's why I was knocked on my ass the next day.
Did you see Ed Begley Jr.?
I did not see Ed Begley Jr.
All right.
but maybe one of these days, very soon, maybe I will.
Do you think he dresses up like a big praying mantis for Halloween?
I know, right? Or just runs around naked like the Invisible Man when he was in Amazon Women on the Moon.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know how many people would get either one of those references.
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't. If for anyone curious, just look up Ed Begley Jr. Invisible Man. It was a segment in Amazon Women on the Moon, which was a John Landis movie that was kind of just a bunch. It was an anthology movie,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just all comedy, and there was no overriding theme per se. And that's a funny segment.
Yeah, and as far
Look
as the
that up.
praying mantis reference, you're gonna have to figure that one out on your own. I'm not. I'm not
Right,
spoiling it.
right. And actually, he was on Better Call Saul, of course. Mostly, I think it was season 2, but then he showed up again, like on one of the
Hmm.
later seasons.
Oh, no, I definitely have to
So
watch that show.
yeah, it was nice seeing him. But yeah, I went to school with his son, and he was a grade ahead of me. And this was before I even knew who Ed Begley Jr. was.
Mm-hmm.
But I just remember his son, Nick, and yeah, I mean that's the extent of my connection. I don't even think his son would remember me, but
Was his
yeah,
son tall? Because he's
no,
tall.
you know what? It's funny how I remember his son. He didn't even look like his dad. Um,
Mm.
Different color hair, different face, everything. At least
Oh,
back then.
looks
Maybe
like his
he,
mom, I guess.
yeah, maybe so. But anyway, had a decently fun Saturday. But two like two drinks, normally 2 beers. That wouldn't. I could. That'd be fine. I could handle that. Whatever. These 2 drinks were 12% stouts, and
Mm.
uh, they were actually the first time I ever went to that particular bar, which is my favorite bar. That was the first drink I had there when they opened in 2007, and it was also what caused one of my worst blackout hangovers ever back then.
Mm.
And so good times, good memories. But this time, between that and the dinner I had, all it did was put me to sleep throughout the next day. So
Mm.
good times.
Good.
Anyway, we got some breaking news here, news and rumors, I should say. One of the breaking rumors is that they're saying there's hubbub online amongst the internet's the information superhighway, that there might be an Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer dropping on Disney Plus Day, which I was like, what the F is Disney Plus Day? Apparently that's November 12th.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Is that when they announce all their Disney Plus stuff?
I guess. But at the same time, I kind of wondered. I was like, this almost seems too soon. I mean, we just got the Book of Boba Fett trailer. It would seem weird just a couple weeks later or less to have an Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer. But I don't know. Who knows?
They move fast, and
Yeah.
depending on how the filming is and stuff, it might not be
I
full of effect shots, but
Well, I think they're pretty far on Obi-Wan Kenobi, but Andor I would think would have to be the one that is the most complete because even we've known about Andor like 2 years before we even knew about the Book of Boba Fett. Andor was announced in like what 2019 or 2018, I feel
yeah,
like
yeah. But nobody cares
long
about
time
that.
ago. I know no one does
We're
apparently,
we're we're all just bitter. It's still not Kyle Katarn. It's Cassian Andor.
but it's so ironic because like no joke for me, as much as I'm looking forward to Obi-Wan Kenobi, seeing Ewan return and Hayden as Vader, um and all these series, no joke, I'm actually most looking forward to Andor because of that time period,
Yeah,
because it's going to have vehicles I love and it's going to be Rebel Alliance stuff. And
yeah.
I guess I just gravitate towards the kind of rebel oriented Galactic Civil War period
Mm-hmm.
where, because I loved X-Wing, I love Dark Forces. There's something about that classic Star Wars period I love, and because it's going to be Cassian, it's going to be probably no Jedi, and it's just going to be grunts, and that's my Star Wars. That's what I want. Is grunts
Yeah.
with blasters and grenades and explosions. So anyway, that's me though. These are all coming. I guess it'll be remains to be seen if we get this Obi-Wan trailer, but that is the breaking rumor right now.
Great. So a rumor of a trailer. All
A
right.
rumor of a
Please tell me
trailer.
the other breaking news that you
Yes,
had just seen is better than
I
that.
was I was scrolling through our official Star Wars Unfiltered Instagram, and I came across the news about the next books in the Essential Legends collection, which is, for anyone who doesn't know, is the reprints of the Legends books in the previous continuity. And we got some great classics coming up soon. Darth Plagueis is being re-released with a new cover. It's got Palpatine with it's kind of a silhouette, a reddish colored silhouette of Plagueis behind him.
Mm-hmm.
This almost makes me wonder, because we've had there's been these rumors that is Darth Plagueis, the character, going to be recanonized or used in some way in the new canon, or is he still even the same species he was, in
Yeah.
James Luceno's book? Who knows? But it makes you wonder because the other Essential Legends books, seem to tie in with things that are coming soon. The other one, well, there's Dynasty of Evil, which is book 3 of the Darth Bane trilogy, which the other books, those were Essential Legends in some
Mm-hmm.
cases here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're going to continue. And then we got Kenobi by John Jackson Miller. And obviously, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. This is a nice little tie-in.
Mm-hmm.
Set on Tatooine. I've still never read that book, but apparently it's really good. Um, and then we got Wedge's Gamble, book 2 of the Rogue Squadron series,
Mm-hmm.
which Rogue Squadron, the movie, is coming in just 2 years, give or take. So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Looking at past stuff, it could be like one or two things tying into upcoming projects, and then one just being like kind
the
of
finishing of the
a
trilogy.
wild card. Well, they had
Yeah.
what Shatterpoint was one, but
Hmm.
there's nothing with
Nothing with
Mace
Mace.
coming
Right.
out. Uh,
That we know.
that's right. The Thrawn stuff, Thrawn's going to show up soon. X-wing. There's
Right.
going to be a Rogue Squadron movie coming out.
Hmm.
So Plagueis could be a wild card. Could be, whatever. I
I
don't
like
know.
that. I like that we try and figure out all this
Right?
stuff
Yeah.
based on reprints of Legends
Yeah, I
books.
know.
Like, it's the master plan.
Well, and Plagueis, I don't know. It seems weird because it's not. I mean, it's not an old Legends book.
No,
It's
it
one
was
of the
actually one of the
most.
latter ones.
Yeah.
It was
So
2012, I believe. When
it,
it might have been late 2011, early
I almost feel
2012.
like it should have just been grandfathered in
I know,
because
I
Tarkin
know.
was right.
Tarkin was, as far as I know, Tarkin was written before the changeover and was written to just fit in with Legends more or
Mm-hmm.
less.
Yeah.
But then it was during the changeover, so it ended up being the first of the canon
Yeah.
novels in
Okay.
that way.
Well, that's neat.
Yeah, good stuff. Good times. And what's this speaking of rumors, Jason? What's going on with this animated series that's coming?
Darth
Maybe
Maul.
coming.
Maybe Darth Maul's getting a series. They keep dancing around the whole Crimson Dawn stuff.
No kidding, right?
It's almost like they're doing a Mexican hat dance around it
I
with
know.
Crimson Dawn and Darth Maul. So there's rumors that there's going to be a Darth Maul animated series, which would probably center around him being in charge of Crimson Dawn.
That's what I'm thinking. I think this is going to, well, for one thing, I feel like this is offloading backstory for Solo 2 that didn't get realized as a live action movie, because I think they planted seeds in Solo that they intended to further with live action stuff, like the fate of Kira and how did Darth Maul go from being the leader of this criminal organization down to essentially having nothing when we see him in Rebels, and he's on that one planet where Ezra finds him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like they're offloading that because Kira came back in the recent Marvel comics during the Empire Strikes Back period. Now there's this rumor of a Darth Maul animated series. Now, the reason I mention this, normally on our podcast we don't go into too many rumors because they're rumors. It's just whatever. But this rumor, when I logged on yesterday, I was looking up something else, and then I can't remember even how I came across it, but then I was just scrolling down on Google, and it was just boom, 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 like on every nerd geek sci-fi fantasy website. It was just
Mm-hmm.
like rumored Darth Maul animated series. Obviously, sometimes things get parroted that don't turn out to be true, but I just felt like this was so permeated everywhere. I feel like there's probably something to it.
Yeah,
So,
maybe. I mean, there's two things working for it, right? He shows up a lot in the animated series. I mean, that's where he
mhm,
basically got resurrected and
right.
fleshed out more. And it also sort of avoids the issue of Ray Park and his social media
His
escapades.
lightsaber
Yeah,
from
his
last year.
his single blade lightsaber that we saw last year.
Right, right.
So I mean, maybe that is part of it. That instead of like a Disney Plus series,
Hmm.
they might, or a live action Disney Plus series, they're going to go with like an animated Disney Plus
Right.
series.
And who knows, Ray Park may still be involved. Like they used him for the animation capture for Clone Wars season 7
Mm-hmm.
when he fights Ahsoka. Ray Park they captured his movements and martial arts, and you could tell when you saw that
Yeah.
it looked differently than past versions of Maul that were just hand animated. So
Yeah. I feel like enough time has passed to where it wouldn't be an issue. The
right,
the post from last year, but I don't, hell, there's no handbook on how much time has to pass between, weird social media transgressions. So,
yeah, no kidding.
I would rather see a live action series with him and Kira and
Yeah,
Crimson Dawn and
I would too.
all
And who
that stuff.
knows,
So,
with the upcoming Lando series in the next couple years, we might still see some kind of continuation of Kira, at least, if not Crimson Dawn. Probably not Maul and Lando, I would not think. But if it involves Kira, there's always that possibility.
yeah.
So yeah,
So we'll
pretty
we'll see.
interesting. We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Bob Chapek. Enough
Yeah,
mall
what's going on
stuff.
with this? Somebody started an online petition, right?
Well, it's from a while ago. This isn't like a new thing. Um,
According to the internet, it is.
well, it's just getting more attention now. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but this petition is from like I think over a year ago at this point.
Oh man.
Um, and it's just people are booty blasted about the moves that Bob Chapek has had to make as the brand new CEO of Disney, trying to keep the company moving forward in the middle of a pandemic that saw basically all of their theme parks shut down, their all their Hollywood stuff being shuffled around and moved, and theaters shut down. So,
Right. I guess one
um,
of the things people were miffed about who wrote this was that one thing also was that he reinstated executive bonuses. So,
um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, his job, right? I mean, for better or worse, his job is to keep the shareholders happy.
yeah, I think that's
Um,
unfortunately anyone's whipping boy job if you're part of the corporate upper levels of Disney.
yeah.
That's what you got to do.
I've followed this whole Disney and Chapek and Bob Iger thing a little
Hmm.
bit over the
Hmm.
past year because it is interesting how it all shook out. Like Iger stepped down, but then there was issues with the pandemic, so he kind of co-CEO'd with Chapek for a
That's
while and
right.
all this
That's
stuff. He
right.
like stepped back into it and he stepped back out and all this stuff. But I think there has been more, at least as far as the rumor mill and the theorizing what's going on behind the scenes at Disney. There's a lot of talk about the moves that Chapek has made as far as giving more control back to the marketing department versus the creatives at Disney. So that would be like the studio heads, so like Bob Feige for Marvel and Kathleen Kennedy at Lucasfilm, and whoever is in charge at Pixar now. I'm not sure who it is.
Yeah.
Um, he's kind of taken the power away from them and given it back to the marketing department, which I don't think a lot of people like, depending on who you are. So there's been
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
theorizing about moves happening behind the scenes and like why certain things come to light in news articles now versus a year ago. And
right. I could,
this petition is one
yeah,
of those things. Like there's a
right.
reason why it's getting attention now, and that's to try and hurt Bob Chapek because certain people in Hollywood are ass blasted about the
I
moves that
think
he's making.
I think you're right about this because the articles I've seen that talk about it is that this is now being shared amongst people like higher up in Disney, like part of the studio system, that
Hmm.
they're signing this and everything. And at the
Um,
same time, yeah, go ahead.
well, so I would say in the context of Star Wars and how it relates to Star Wars and Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy and all that stuff, I've read and heard it mention that this is a move that could potentially help um, certain franchises, Star Wars being one of them, if you're of the mind that there is an issue with the direction of the franchise, um, as far as casting, as far as story direction, as far as what's being people being fired, like Gina Carano. Um,
Right.
if you had to, if you had to run the firing of Gina Carano by a marketing department versus just the studio head Kathleen Kennedy, you might run up against more resistance firing her if Cara Dune's toy sales are a sizable chunk of their income, right?
Right. Right.
Like they'd be less likely to fire the person who plays the character that's like bringing in a lot of money
Right.
because
Right.
marketing is worried about money and pleasing fans versus certain producers, certain directors, certain studio heads that might be more interested in like sending a message, like a
Hmm.
social message.
So in that regard, this is really just about trying to nip things in the bud and save money or get money where they can. It's
Yeah,
it,
I think for the
you
most
know.
part, Chapek's motivations have all been about keeping the company going and keeping the investors happy,
Yeah.
and you know, it is unfortunate. The the petition mentions like laying off like 30,000 people, 28,000 people.
That's probably going to happen anyway.
I mean,
Like,
yeah. I mean, what are you supposed to do? All the theme parks got shut down. I mean, I understand that they make a lot
yeah,
of money from all sorts of different sources, but they make a lot of their money comes from theme parks.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's not like Chapek wanted that. I mean, yeah, he had to make some tough decisions, but did he want to?
yeah,
Probably not. So I think people, this is also the problem with change.org. You get a lot of really frivolous things that get up on there, and most of them fizzle out and it's nothing. But
yeah, and a lot of the signatures are probably just
as
knee jerk
everything
reactions.
is,
Also, especially if it's getting okay. So I don't want to go too much further into this, but if you have like a description of the petition, right? There isn't a
mhm.
date on the latest update or anything like that, right?
Right.
So like this is written probably like a year ago, and like
Also, the grammar is, it's not like written horribly, but there's a couple things that, like, if I was making this be a serious petition, I'd probably run it by somebody to brush up the wording better. Because, yeah, there's some things I looked at and I'm like, ooh, this is kind of iffy the way it's written.
yeah, um, so uh, there's the circumstances change. This petition might not even be necessarily that accurate at this point in time as
Yeah.
far as like
Yeah.
yeah, they laid off 28,000 people, but how many people have they rehired now that the theme
Hmm.
parks are back open and things are running kind of back to normal as far as
Yeah.
capacity at the parks and all that stuff.
Probably
So
80%. We're getting them. We're getting there.
so personally, I'm of the mind that this is just something that surfaced in the news to try and hurt Chapek.
Yeah.
So, but I enjoy all those Hollywood conspiracy theories and stuff. So
Right. Right. Yeah.
anyway,
I'm gonna keep checking back with pretending to change the world with an online petition.org. I'm
yeah,
gonna
that's the
get
full
on that.
that's the full URL.
The full URL.
Anyway,
So
so that's it. I think the
yeah,
petition is stupid, and there's no reason
yeah,
for it to be in the news.
yeah. I agree. Let's talk about the Book of Boba Fett.
Yes, please.
We got kind of surprised, actually, kind of Sideways, the day after Halloween, a new trailer dropped, and I mean, we knew one was coming right around the corner anyway. But I guess for me, I got hit sideways because I was kind of not following daily Star Wars news every day because of being, occupied with other things. And then it was just like, bam! I wake up, I'm up early that morning at like 6 a.m. and there it is on my phone. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. What do you think of the trailer?
It was great. One, I like it when stuff gets released by surprise.
Me too.
I don't like there being like, oh, this is the date when the trailer drops. Um,
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
yeah. Also, and this is true of a lot of stuff outside of like movie trailers.
Mhm.
I don't know that this is just like Disney Plus stuff, but every time I watch a trailer, I get really annoyed at the trailer for the trailer. If you
Yeah,
watch a
me
Hollywood
too.
movie, they'll show scenes from the trailer before
I
the
know.
trailer starts.
Yeah,
And
actually, when 5 years ago, when Rogue One was coming out with its first trailer, they did that.
yeah.
It was like you would see literally 5 seconds of
Hmm.
the Death Trooper. That was my first glimpse of Rogue One. Was the Death Trooper like turning his head, and it's like
Yeah.
tomorrow on Good Morning America, the
Yeah, it's
trailer.
like it's just like, come on, guys. Like, is this where we're at with attention spans, where we have to
I know,
tease the trailer like immediately before the trailer actually starts? I
I
watched the
know.
trailer for Moonfall, the new Roland Emmerich movie, and it's the same thing.
Mhm.
It's like it's showing scenes from the trailer before the trailer, and it's so annoying.
Uh,
And fortunately, maybe because it's not a movie and it's just a Disney Plus series, we didn't have that
yeah,
with Boba Fett.
yeah,
So yeah, I liked it a lot. The first thing that stuck out to me at the beginning of the trailer was the Bomar monk, which we love talking about the
yes.
Bomar monks.
Yeah,
Um,
we mentioned them in maybe a lore play commentary sometime recently. We were just talking about them on a podcast or a
we're
video.
always talking about them anytime there's
We are.
every opportunity. It was
More monks.
interesting that this seems it's stop motion. It looks like.
Yeah, it looked like stop motion. It's very creepy the way it moved, and it was very fast. Like the one you see in Return of the Jedi behind C-3PO in Jabba's palace as he's coming in the door. Obviously, it's live action. It's like a puppet. It's like right there,
Hmm.
probably controlled with wires overhead. So naturally, it was going to be slow by 1982, 83 technology. But now they can do CG, so they're like, "Hey, let's go for a Ray Harryhausen
Let's
look."
CG stop motion.
Yeah. So it was very creepy and very fast, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. It's kind of disturbing when it crawls over that hill.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about it. I think off the podcast, but
Mhm.
I I hope that they factor in somehow into the maybe not factor into the story, but that they're there, like they're
Yes.
acknowledged,
Yeah, like
and they're
they are the ones that have been in the palace before Jabba, you know.
yeah. Um, so I hope they have a I hope that their old EU, their legends background gets recanonized basically through this show.
I, yeah, and I think they are in canon. Bomar monks exist in canon in some form, at least
Well, I mean they
probably
have
for
to, right? Because they're in Return of the
yeah.
Jedi. So
Yeah, but I mean, besides even that, I think they might have been referenced in a couple books or comics or something. Everyone just go to Wikipedia right now. There's probably a canon tab on
right,
Bomar
yeah,
Monk,
yeah. I can't be
but
bothered to do it, but everybody else should do it.
they're there. But no, this is great. And the other thing I wanted to mention too, which ties into that, is it's going to be great to see more, obviously, of Jabba's palace.
Hmm.
More of the interior, the tower. We see the shot of Fett and Finnick like looking out over the Tatooine landscape with the sunset behind them.
Hmm.
Looks really cool. I've always been intrigued about seeing more of Jabba's palace in the other sections because
Yeah,
in Return of the Jedi, we just see the throne room and the Rancor pit and the entrance way, and that's it. And
yeah,
that's all great, but I mean, look how big the palace is.
yeah.
So
I want to see the dungeons and stuff.
the dungeons and the corridors and one of the things I loved about the old illustrated Star Wars universe book from the 90s, that was the one that was full of Ralph McQuarrie paintings and artwork and written by Kevin J. Anderson. There was so much great Jabba's Palace content in that, and I almost guarantee we're going to see some of that Ralph McQuarrie stuff come out, because they always go back to McQuarrie's paintings and pull things from them that were not utilized in the movies, and then they'll insert them in Mandalorian or Rebels or Clone Wars or whatever. So
Yeah.
that'll be likely.
Speaking of the palace and the decor and all that stuff, I noticed that the dais, I guess it was Bib Fortuna's dais, so I don't think Jabba would ever fit on that thing, has Rancor heads on the armrests.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. I didn't notice that.
So maybe there's going to be a Rancor there, a new Rancor.
Yeah, why not?
Hopefully, hey, maybe Malakili's still there. Old man Malakili.
Who would they get to recast as Malakili, I wonder?
Well, yeah, it'd only be this is like not that long after Return of the Jedi.
5 years.
Yeah,
if the Book of Boba Fett is concurrent with The Mandalorian or right after season 2, which I think it is, Fett going off away from everybody, entering hyperspace and Slave One. Yeah, it'd be just 5 years later.
Who would be a fat actor?
Who is a fat guy that could just wear, no shirt and have the hood
and all grease
and everything,
grease on and stuff.
Anyway,
yeah, okay, so just going over the trailer.
Yeah. Let's hear some more.
The shot of the droid handing Boba his helmet, it looks kind of like you get a full shot of the droid, but it looks kind of like a pit droid.
Yeah, I was noticing it seemed to have
because it doesn't have
head.
Yeah, it has a dome head like a pit droid, but not the mono eye.
Right.
I gotta know what kind of droid it is.
Maybe it's that one in the Bounty Hunter Wars that helps Fett and Dengar. I think it was like a medical droid. I can't remember the name.
You're only mentioning it because you're reading those books right now.
Which is the perfect lead-in to the Book of Boba Fett.
I guess,
Jabba's Palace, Tatooine, Fett. I mean, actually, that is partly why I wanted to hold off. Like, when I started reading it early this year, I was like, wait, I should hold off and read it right before
Yeah,
Book
I should savor this delectable meal of books that is the Bounty Hunter Wars.
Oh, yes. What a barf. Anyway, so it's also cool seeing, obviously we're seeing just snippets of the plot here. There wasn't anything juicy as far as story. It's a lot of scenarios that I think we all just kind of saw coming. This is the story of Fett basically.
Well, it's the perfect teaser trailer. It doesn't give anything away. I mean, obviously he's going to have to solidify whatever power he wants to have, taking over Jabba's business.
So I think there was no major surprises in this, but it's just cool to see things. So it's like, oh, there's an Ithorian who seems to be some other criminal leader that he's going to bargain with. There's Klatooinians, there's Aqualish, there's
speaking of which,
Trandoshans.
I'm really eager to see if they have flippers or if they have hands.
That's going to be the main thing we were looking forward to.
You can't see it in the trailer, so their hands are like kind of under the table, I think. So
you know what? That would be interesting. I think as far as the prequels, every time they had an Aqualish, it was just the human-like hand that's furry with no fins. But if someone really goes back to A New Hope lore, then maybe
I forget which one was the higher cast. Was it the fin or the hands?
I think it's the one with hands, because I think the finned ones mostly stay in the water on Ando, and they're like the lower worker like class or whatever. Someone go back and read The Tale of Dr. Evazan.
It's already exited my head from the read earlier this year.
I know, right?
The one of the biggest tidbits that makes me the most curious is the city that you see from the wide shot, and it's like the city in a canyon or a large
almost
caldera.
Seemed too big to be Tatooine, I was thinking.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's supposed to make you wonder if it's Tatooine. Is it? It's
another desert planet, is what it is.
Is it Mos Eisley has expanded?
Yeah, it's Mos Eisley was in too wide of a valley. It was more flat with mountains on the side, almost like a basin.
Yeah.
Whereas this is like really.
It's not. It's definitely not Mos Espa. because Mos Eisley
No.
was very flat. You know what it
Right.
reminds me of though is Mos Eisley as depicted in Rogue Squadron 3D, the
Yeah.
game,
Yeah.
because they just
Yep.
like plop it into a
Into a
canyon.
canyon.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I wonder if it's going to be a different city. Is it? Oh, it's not going to be Tashi Station unless it really exploded.
I know, right?
That's
Hmm.
it. Tashi Station really got busy. Um, I don't know. It might not even be Tatooine, but it's probably Tatooine. But I'm really
It
curious to see what it
probably
is.
is. It probably is, but I almost hope it's not because I like to think of Tatooine cities as being slightly smaller and more. I mean, not that that's probably the same size as Mos Eisley,
Oh,
but
you know what? What if it's? Oh man, what if it's a model of Jabba's proposed expansion and remodeling of Mos Eisley, a la Detroit in RoboCop? You
right,
know what I
Delta
mean?
City.
Delta City, yeah. Like this is Delta City on
We
Tatooine.
need billboards in the background saying like, welcome to Tatooine's version of Delta City.
Boba Fett's going to be the old man from from
Yeah.
OCP.
What's your name, son? Good
um,
times.
yeah. So anyway, I'm curious to see how that what that city is. What's going on?
Yeah,
There's like a
yeah.
big like tower in the middle of it too. So I
Right,
wonder what
right.
that is.
Yeah, very curious. And then of course we saw Trandoshans during this
Yes.
dinner slash negotiating scene, and of course they've always been part of criminal lore in Star Wars, bounty hunters and whatever. And I'm wondering if we'll see perhaps Kradosk, which was Bosk's father, who
Mm-hmm.
ran the Bounty Hunters Guild in the Bounty Hunter
That'd be
Wars.
great.
I mean, what a cool tie-in that would be, just to have something like that,
You
or
know what?
even if he was mentioned,
He's got to be there. He's got to sit down, and the first thing he says is, Boba, you're one tough barv.
Exactly,
I'm
exactly.
gonna be really upset if they don't say barv.
Oh, come on. The Mandalorian not saying it for 2 seasons now is one thing. I can kind of forgive that. But here we are, Boba Fett on Tatooine, Jabba's palace. If come on, I'm waiting. I'm waiting, Filoni. You're gonna do it. So, all right, I'll be the one to latch onto that if it does happen. I'll
Yeah, we're gonna start
shout it from the
protesting.
rooftops. But there was some great battle shots. I like the those shields that power up, like the deflector shield, like hand shields.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of similar to the Gungan ones in Phantom Menace, but and I think we've seen.
Borrowed Gungan technology.
I know, right? I think we've seen those in like maybe not Rebels, but I think Clone Wars. Somebody had those at some point in Star Wars, so it's been seen before, but I don't think in live action.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. And I like that shot of Fett striking down with the like
Oh, he
the
looks like a
the staff.
maniac.
Looks like a
Yeah.
maniac with the look on his face,
Yeah.
and it was reminiscent of when he was cracking stormtrooper heads in season 2 of
Yeah.
Mando.
Which is one of the best parts of season 2.
Right, that was really good. Um, yeah, I think overall everything just it's a really simple trailer, but like I said, nothing's super mind blowing. But like it gives us everything we want: more Fennec, more Fett, some
More t- more
criminals.
more more Twi'leks, more female
You know, oh
Twi'leks.
yeah, Twi'leks. Almost forgot. They
Almost
better be
almost
wearing.
scantily clad.
I was gonna say if there's no scantily clad Twi'leks, I'm not watching this. So take
Um
that for what you will.
which I guess Jennifer Beals plays one of those Twi'leks. They
Okay.
they revealed. So
Oh, interesting.
maybe one day I'll
Yeah.
get to play a Twi'lek,
Yeah.
a male Twi'lek. But
Yeah. Gender bending Twi'leks.
um, the only other thing I noticed was, I mean, there's the action shots and everything, but um, I do wonder if there's that shot of Boba's helmet falling on the ground and then the
Mhm.
credits falling out, and I
Yeah.
wonder if that is uh, sort of reminiscent of Django's helmet flying off. I mean, I don't think Boba's getting his head chopped off or anything,
Right, right.
but I wonder if it's to me it's kind of
I think
vaguely reminiscent of that.
it looks like a mirroring of that in a certain way, and maybe it's metaphorical too. So Fett, he's a mercenary at the end of the day. He doesn't care about anyone, but he
Yeah.
cares about credits. So
Yeah.
the credits fall out of his dropped helmet or whatever. And I was telling you off the podcast, it reminds me of something out of a Pirates of the Caribbean movie,
Yeah.
like someone dropping a hat and some coins falling out,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got that very
Like
swashbuckling.
the deal's gone bad or something.
Yeah, the deal's gone bad. So that's what it looks like the Book of Boba Fett is going to give us. It's the Shadows of the Empire criminal vibes. Lots of bounty hunters and mercenaries, and lots of uh, bad guys on Tatooine. That's
Yeah,
basically what it is.
I don't have much more to say about it other than I'm really excited, and I know I've mentioned this before, but I'll say it again that I think it's funny that I never gave two shits about Boba Fett for the most
Hmm.
part until uh, Jango Fett and Tamora Morrison. That
Yeah, yeah,
instantly made the character of Boba Fett way more interesting to me, and I'm really glad that Tamora is getting his own series with Boba
absolutely.
Fett. So
Yeah, absolutely agree 100%. It's really fun to have him return. Um, Between him and then Hayden and Ewan coming back for Obi-Wan Kenobi and other things, we're getting a prequel renaissance here
I know.
with actors, and I'm reveling in it. I'm savoring it. I'm enjoying it, and I am happy for them because they seem to be having a lot of fun. So hey, this is great. So
Mm-hmm.
December 29th can't come soon enough, as I've said.
Yes.
So, Jason, let's talk about bookstore memories in Star
Yes.
Wars. Um, this is a fun little topic that I wanted to talk about for a while now. You and I will come up with topic ideas. Some are open ended like this. We try and keep up with current Star Wars news and movies and series and all this, but it's also fun to take a step back and just have a freeform thing going over old stuff. So I was thinking, there's so many memories attached to what a lot of those chain bookstores obviously from the 80s 90s and 2000s, and I don't know, it's funny, there's certain books that remind me of certain ones that I spent a lot of time at, and yeah, I thought it'd be fun, talk about
Mm-hmm.
each of these in turn.
Well, a lot of them are gone too, right? I mean,
Yeah,
now if you want a book, you either go on Amazon or you go to Barnes and Noble, and
and that Barnes
that's
and Noble is the last holdout of
yeah,
the corporate bookstore chains.
yeah.
I don't think there's any others, and so I was thinking about that. That might be fun to talk about. And starting, I want to mention, this goes back to the 80s. Obviously, you and I, we weren't really buying Star Wars books in the 80s, but my first memory of a Star
I don't
Wars
think
book.
anybody was, to be
Unless,
honest.
well, there was the Han Solo adventures, and there was the Lando Calrissian
And
adventures,
Splinter, yeah.
and Splinter of the Mind's Eye, and the novelizations. I mean, also B. Dalton's. They used to have comic books too on the little spin rack
Mm-hmm.
things,
Mm-hmm.
and I bought in the 90s. I bought at least one issue of Dark Empire 2 at a B. Dalton on a spin rack. I remember that, and B. Dalton or Walden Books. I could never remember which was which as far as like stores I went to, where, but because to me those two were interchangeable.
Yeah.
But I do remember the first time seeing Heir to the Empire on the end cap at probably a Walden Books at the Pacific View Mall in Ventura.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, back then it would have been the Buenaventura Mall. I think I mentioned that in a lore play commentary, maybe a past podcast, so I don't need to spin that memory too long. But I remember seeing Heir to the Empire, um, and and then Barnes and Noble became the big one when I got into Star Wars because it was, and actually I think Barnes and Noble was really taken off around then. It was like I think they started in the late 80s, but it was really the early to mid 90s when they started, having a lot of new locations open.
Yeah, their big expansion.
Yeah, because I honestly I was trying to think of this. I don't have any memory of Barnes and Noble prior to 1993. That was the first year I remember one. So Um, but I got into Star Wars around the time you did, about 94, 95. That was like our period. And so my local Barnes and Noble was like, that's where I got all my first Star Wars novels, the Thrawn books, X-Wing, the Kevin J. Anderson's Jedi Academy trilogy. And not only that, but it was like where I went to get my Star Wars Insider magazines,
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars Galaxy magazine. And prior to having the internet in 97, this is where I got all my Star Wars news, was basically Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
So
The,
bless their hearts.
the dark ages of needing to read print
Yeah,
for
for all
news.
our news. Now, the funny thing about Barnes and Noble, okay, they're later, I think in the late 90s mostly, they started to have more of the cookie cutter stores to where they all like look the same now.
Mm-hmm.
They all kind of have a variation on like the 2 escalator system and like an upstairs and the music section. But the one I went to, which is long gone now, closed in 2002 and opened on another end of town in Ventura. The original one I went to was an old style one that just took over whatever prior building was there.
Yeah.
And so it had a different layout, and it was kind of similar to ones that you and I had seen on the road trips, like in Colorado and stuff,
Yeah.
like single story, just kind of spread out.
Which you mentioned that, and it's kind of funny because you've gotten shit from your friends
Oh yeah,
about needing to visit bookstores
yes,
on road
yes,
trips. Like, oh,
because
I need to go into this Barnes and Noble.
right, because you and I, that was our thing when we were on the celebration road trips. And this is something we're gonna, when we do our celebration special, we'll dive into more. It was always a tradition for you and I. Oh, we got to see the Star Wars section,
Yeah,
like just to see what they got. And
as if
Phantom
it would be
Menace
much
was,
different store to
I
store.
know,
But
I know.
sometimes in the not necessarily in the paperbacks and stuff, but you might find stuff that was a little rarer in the
Yeah.
oversized books in the sci-fi section. So
Oh yeah.
there might be some role playing books that you hadn't seen anywhere
Mm-hmm.
else.
And
Um,
that was back when RPG books, like in the 90s, especially West End Games, I would usually just see them at my local comic and hobby shop, but every
hmm
so often at a B. Dalton in my mall, they
yeah,
would carry West End Games books. And
yeah,
actually,
and
I
and
bought a few
and if
from
they
them.
did, it wouldn't be a whole set. It wouldn't be
Yeah.
even half the set or
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
It would
Oh
be like
yeah.
one or two.
It'd be a few. And my B. Dalton at the mall, they used to carry the Star Wars Adventure Journal from West End Games, and that I would, I think at least 2 times I bought them from B. Dalton. But otherwise, again, that was something I get at the comic shop. But then my Barnes and Noble started carrying the Adventure Journal, and they would put it with the paperback novels,
Yeah.
so it'd be right there. And I mean, those were good times. I don't know. There's something. It's just a bygone era, going into a bookstore, and I feel like when I do it these days, because my local Barnes and Noble, it's now been there. The new one that moved downtown, it's been there now. Like I think next year it's going to be 20 years, and
Yeah.
it's so run down now. The carpets are
Mm,
all filthy. The bathroom is
mm,
filthy.
mm.
It's so in need of a refurbishing, and it's just, and it's also with COVID and everything. I'd go in, it's like a long line, because they, social distancing and everything, and I
Mm-hmm.
just feel, I don't know, there's such a decline with at least my local store. It's really seen hard times, and I kind of feel like maybe the enjoyment is sucked out of it now, and maybe I'm just mythologizing the past of my Barnes and Noble. But
Well,
anyway,
it's definitely hard times across the board right now, but
yeah,
there is
yeah,
something, I feel like there's something lost when you don't walk into a store to buy things. So
I know,
you know, I'm glad that Barnes and Noble's still around,
I
and
am too.
I'm actually happy that Barnes and Noble's still around instead of Borders because Borders were
Yeah,
always a lot smaller, so the selection wouldn't be quite as large. I feel like.
I I have mixed feelings about Borders, because on the one hand, there was the Borders in Santa Barbara that I think you went to whenever we'd go see a Star Wars movie. I think at least a couple times we would meet there, I
Yes.
think.
Well, we would often use a bookstore as a meeting place, because we
We
used
would.
the Barnes and Noble in Santa Ana. We used
Yep,
that
that was where we
several
first met
times.
in person.
That's right, yeah,
Was
to
there?
get together for the first celebration trip.
That's right. That's right. You just said, "Meet me in the Star Wars section. I'll be wearing my Metallica shirt."
Right.
That was
That
it.
sounds like '90s me. That sounds
Yeah,
like 1999 me.
right.
Um,
Exactly.
uh, and then yeah, the one in Santa Barbara, the Borders in Santa Barbara. That was the only one I knew that was like multi-story, right? Because wasn't that like
Yeah,
three
that's true.
stories?
It had a basement area, which is where the sci-fi novels were, and other books, and then there was it was weird. It had an upstairs, but it was an open air
Yeah.
stairway that went up to the music section on top. And so it was very interesting the way it was laid out. And the Barnes and Noble that was there was cat a corner, just one block over, but it was very small
Hmm.
and very different. And they closed that location just like a year, I think a year before Borders actually. So that Barnes and Noble closed around 2009, and then Borders closed there 2010, along with all the Borders that next year. I think by 2011 they were all gone. Um, but yeah, oh, the other thing I wanted to mention in regards to these larger corporate bookstores, because earlier this morning I was going on YouTube and I was looking for. Sometimes when I read, I'll look up like bookstore music or cafe music, which is usually like jazz piano or sometimes bossa nova, and then I came across an ASMR video that was just bookstore sounds,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, this is cool. I'll check it out."
See, now you
Yeah, I
like
know.
AMSR.
I don't like the whispering bullshit, but this is okay. So it was like someone had recorded. It was an actual recorded bookstore. You don't hear any people actually saying things. It just kind of general ambient sounds, and they had the sound of a coffee machine going, and so, and they had the light piano jazz.
Uh-huh.
But I realized the distinct memory of going to like Barnes and Noble or Borders. It was always the smell of coffee from the cafe, and then the sound of the milk steamer.
Oh yeah.
Be-
Yeah, I know what
because
you
you
mean.
hear it every like couple minutes.
Hmm.
And I realized, like, in listening to this YouTube video, that is such an aesthetic that, like, oh, just immediately brings back. See, I guess the ASMR really worked on me in this case.
Hmm. Yeah.
I have all these
See?
flashbacks, but that was like the golden memory was going in, getting my Star Wars Insider, sitting there on the bench, reading it for a little bit, while I waited for my mom to shop or whatever, and then just smelling the coffee and hearing the classical music or the jazz on the overhead quietly in the background. I mean, I've lost count of how many hours back in the day that was like my world. So yeah, it's a good memory.
Well, and I feel like too, we on the trips, we wouldn't just visit, the cookie cutter Barnes and Noble stores. We would seek out the uh, the smaller bookstores too, just to check them
Absolutely.
out and see what they have. So,
Yeah.
there's Media Play in
Mm-hmm.
Denver, which
Yep.
that I think that chain is closed down now completely. But
Right.
that one was great because I think I fleshed out almost all of, or a large portion of my adventure journals there, because they just happened to have a bunch on that
Right.
celebration trip. Um,
Right.
and other
And
stuff, T-shirts and all that stuff.
let's not forget Hastings. That was
And
another.
Hastings, of course. I think Hastings was in was that in Flagstaff?
Yeah, that was in Arizona.
The
And
one that
then
we
when I briefly lived in Tennessee in 2006, there was a Hastings there that I actually applied at, and I was hoping to get a job with, but then I moved back to California.
yeah.
So, but they
That's
were
funny.
always
That's funny
fun.
too. In fact, the now that you mention it, reminds me the first job that I interviewed for, that I applied and interviewed for back when I was a teenager, was the Walden Books at the Orange Mall.
Oh, nice.
Um, and I remember I would go there all the time to get the Decipher Star Wars CCG cards, because they
Yep.
sold the
Yep.
packs, and I'd get books there and stuff too. But
Mm-hmm.
I had visited so much. I had actually applied and interviewed. I didn't get the job,
Nice. Right.
unfortunately, but
Right.
um, that was that was my go-to for books. in the
Yeah.
90s.
Did you buy any Star Wars books there that you recall?
I don't recall any particular ones. I do have a very strong memory of buying because like I said, I'd get the CCG packs there, and
Yeah.
I remember buying a few packs, getting in the car, and I was with my friend Nick Barubi, and
Hmm.
we're in the car, and because he played too, we opened our packs, and I got Darth Vader in one of the packs, and I was
Nice.
so stoked because I had already had Tarkin, and they had like an interaction together if you had both of them on the in
Hmm.
the same whatever
Right.
area
The
in the game.
combo.
Yeah, so I was super stoked, and I don't recall getting any particular books. I My go tos were Walden, and
Hmm.
then when they opened the big Barnes and Noble in Santa Ana across the street from the Main Place Mall, I would go
Hmm.
there, and that's of course where we met and all that stuff.
Right. You know
And then
what? Yeah, I was gonna say about the Santa Ana one. I distinctly recall one of the paperbacks that had come out like a few days before, so I saw it there on
yeah,
that visit. And ironically enough, it was the third Bounty Hunter Wars book. It
oh
was
there
hard
there you
merchandise,
go.
so it goes full circle. Hard
Yeah.
merchandise.
Um,
So
and then my other go to was when I lived in Irvine. I would go to the one. There was a little one in Woodbridge.
hmm.
On the whatever. There's some fake lake over there, and
Right.
it was a smaller Barnes and Noble. But I remember going there. It was right um, when I first really started reading Star Wars a lot.
Yeah.
I remember going there and getting like the trilogy paperback,
Hmm.
and
That was my
I actually got some
first.
Stephen King books there too because I was reading a
Nice.
lot of Stephen King right before Star Wars. So
Right. Right.
that Barnes and Noble was probably my first big Barnes and Noble to go to.
Yeah. Yeah. Another.
Even though it was a small Barnes and Noble, it was my first
Right.
big bookstore.
Right. Another bookstore I'd like to mention was Crown or Super Crown.
Yes.
Um, my local Crown in Ventura was a just normal Crown, and I think they closed around the same time as when Super Crown closed, which was around early 2001, according to my research. But the first time I ever saw the Star Wars visual guide, the first one, and the cross sections book was in that Crown, and it was very small. I mean, it was like the size of a B. Dalton in the mall or something.
Mm-hmm.
But then in the mid to later 90s, we saw the advent of the Super Crown start to show up. And I have good memories of going to the one in Simi Valley when I was living in Moore Park. Me and my dad would go to Simi Valley every so often because it was just 15-minute drive away. And there was a Super Crown there. And I distinctly recall getting dropped off and kicking back, and they had a comic spinner, and I remember seeing like the first four issues of Crimson Empire, and just sitting and going page by page. And I don't think I read it, but I was just skimming every page, checking out the artwork, and just like really digging it. And they also had Shadows of the Empire Evolution, the sequel comic to the novel, and even they even had a listening station with where I would listen to the Spectre of the Past audiobook. The I think it would just, I don't know if it had a cutoff because like it's an audiobook, it's a long track, but I think you could listen to the first few minutes of it. And I remember Spectre of the Past. So yeah, Super Crown was good. They would be cheaper too. You would save, like if you picked up a paperback, it'd be $1 or so cheaper than like Barnes and Noble even.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go there, like if I was this is when I was starting to work more and I was getting disposable income, but if I was picking up like three or four Star Wars novels at once, which I tended to do, I would go to Super Crown and save $5, you know,
Yeah.
which of course that money would then go into the next
Yeah.
paperback.
And that was a big deal.
So
That's a big deal when you're a teenager.
it really was. So yeah, and of course they all closed in 2001. I think you and I, we went to one in Orange County somewhere down there, and I remember we showed up, and I don't know if it was pre-planned or if we just happened to walk by. And I don't even remember exactly where it was, just that it was down there in Orange County. But I remember we went in
It was
and
a
they'd
Super
already got,
Crown, right?
it was a Super Crown, and they had
Yeah.
gotten rid of all the shelves,
It's a
and it was tables
I
with books.
do you okay? So my memory might be conflating. I know that there was a there would be like overstock being sold at places, but I don't think it was a Super Crown. I think it was just an overstock place. There was a Super
okay.
Crown in Orange that is now a Tuesday morning home
Yeah,
goods store.
We have a Tuesday morning over here in Camarillo too.
And that's probably the one, because that was a Super
Okay.
Crown, and I remember that closing. I do remember going there with you.
Right.
And
I just remember there was no shelves because they had like cleared those out, and it was tables of boxes of books and audiobooks. And I remember we skimmed over everything in there, and it was all garbage. There was nothing of value. It was just
picked
like
over.
it was all picked over.
That was the Super Crown in the back in the Orange Hills.
Okay.
So now it's a Tuesday morning. No more Crown books. They've all fallen. Crown Books is gone. Borders is gone.
Right.
The mall ones, B. Dalton and Walden, those are gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Very sad.
Media Play's gone.
Pretty much. Let's also briefly for a minute mention Bookman's in Flagstaff, Arizona. We hit them up on each of the 3 road trips to Celebration, and
I think they moved, right? They're still in Flagstaff, but they moved down the street.
I think they moved because I was gonna go there last year. My roommate and I, we were gonna do a road trip to visit Arizona and everything, and then we had it all planned out, and I was like looking up the website for Bookman's, and then COVID hit like that week. I mean, like officially hit, so it was like everything went on lockdown. I was like, no, Bookman's, you were mine. So, but I have good memories. We went there. You and I picked up random stuff. It was like there was some markdown older magazines, like issues of Spin. I picked up a Shadowrun paperback at that Bookman's.
Yeah, we got to go there. We got to go there again because they. I'm looking at the map. They did move, but they are still there. They are still around up the street. Actually, closer to the Barnes and Noble there in Flagstaff.
Interesting, right?
We have visited.
So, you know what? I can confirm what you're saying because when I was planning this visit in early 2020, I was looking at the street map and I was calculating on Google Maps if I could walk from the Barnes and Noble to Bookman's. And I was like, yeah, I can. It's only
this 10, is how pathetic we are. That we will sit on Google Maps and look up bookstores.
Common bookstores.
from long ago.
Yep. This is literally like back when I was a kid and I would hear about old people collecting their stamps and coins and shit.
Oh,
this is the same thing, but it's now us.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, boomer.
Right.
Okay,
exactly.
boomer. Yeah. To reminisce about your chain bookstores.
Right. Good times. I think that's about all my book memories I can conjure up at the moment. I'm sure more will come in random episodes about Star Wars books in the future.
Yeah. If there's any constant in the universe is retelling the same snippets of stories over and over again. The older you get, the more it happens.
That's us again in a nutshell. Exactly. So for more banter and hubbub and retreading of stories, just check out the next podcast or our lore play commentaries where I will invariably go on about something nostalgic and Jason will invariably crap on Disney and the sequel trilogy.
Yes.
And that's the best. That's the key to modern Star Wars right there, crapping on Disney. Anyway, I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. Make sure to check us out on our YouTube channel where you're likely listening to this right now. Check us out on Facebook at Star Wars Unfiltered. If you have any questions or comments, hit us up at starwarsunfiltered@yahoo.com. And we are also, the Twitter is going to be running very soon. As soon as Jason gets on that, well, it'll happen. We're going to use it as a promotional tool. It's been underutilized so far, but it's okay.
I hate Twitter listens. So much, but okay.
That's why I'm giving it to you.
Do what I gotta do. Yeah, okay.
And then also check us out on Instagram, which is thankfully plentiful and easy to use, and the hashtags work out great, and it's awesome. So until the next episode, everyone take care, and may the Force be with you.
Good night.
What?